unsung hero in our educational world is the school secretary, and that's so true. They are to be consistent, dependable, encouraging, and show no fear as they are the first contact for everything. This embodies Miss Boston. Never once has she put herself in front of what our staff and students needed. She simply responds, I've got you covered. A true servant's heart, and we are extremely blessed to have her. And he ended it with, she is the glue in all caps. So Miss Boston must keep them all in line at North Dakota Middle. So Mr. Carter, if you will stay up here to represent her in our picture for her. Next is our new teacher of the month from LHS. We have tonight with us Miss Hannah Temple. Mr. Bush says this about Miss Temple. Hannah is a great young teacher with a great work ethic. She has not been late or missed one day of school since school started. She's eager to learn and very receptive to classroom support from administrators and master teachers. She really enjoys teaching, and we hope to keep her around for a long time. And I will say, in all of our conversations that Ms. Tingle and I have had with Ms. Temple, she is a ball of energy and excited to be a teacher. So I will echo Mr. Bush and that we hope she stays around for a long time. So if you will give her one final round of applause. And if there's anybody here with Miss Temple tonight, family or anybody else from Logansport, if y'all will stand to be recognized as well. Anybody from Logansport or family? Stand. There you go. All right, our last employee of the month is our teacher of the month, Miss Amy Petrillo from Stanley High School. This is Amy's second year in DeSoto Parish and at Stanley High School. And this is what Mr. Anderson says. She has brought a wealth of knowledge and experience to our school and her classroom. Amy's great work ethic and enthusiasm has propelled her into different leadership roles on our campus, just as a 2-year teacher. So that's great. We would like to thank Ms. Petrillo for being a difference maker for our students. So any family and anybody else from Stanley High School, please stand to be recognized, and y'all give them a round of applause. Thank you, board.
Okay, so for our next segment of great news tonight, we have some selections for Principal of the Year and then new teacher and support staff of the year. So first up, Mr. Burbach is going to come up and talk about our newest Principal of the Year for DeSoto Parish, Miss Anisha Ross.
President, Superintendent Corley, members of the board. I'm excited tonight to recognize Miss Anisha Ross, but she couldn't be with us for recovering from a procedure. So I'm going to ask her twin to come up, Coach Birch. I'm sure that some of this goodness, is that right? Well, maybe some of this goodness will rub off on you, sir. All right. So I'm excited to announce that Ms. Ross is the 23-24 DeSoto Principal of the Year. We have a long lineage, if you'll recall, of high-performing principals, and she is one more. So Ms. Ross has shown extraordinary leadership, leading by example and continually going above and beyond for her students, staff, and the community that she serves. Not only has Mansfield High School experienced significant academic growth under her leadership, but there's also been a steady increase in student engagement and community involvement. So under Ms. Ross's leadership, Mansfield High School has achieved its highest school performance score in its history, 97.5 for the 22-23 school year. Yes. Don't forget those stats. Okay. This year, the schools maintain an A rating with experiencing significant improvements in academic performance for the 23-24 school year. Notably, Mansfield High has increased its SPS in 5 of 6 core subjects in the high school assessment area. So we're excited for Miss Ross, and we want to celebrate her when she returns. So let's give her another round of applause.
We'll wait on that picture.
And to round out our great news tonight, recently schools, all 9 schools across DeSoto Parish recently voted on teachers and new teachers of the year for the 24-25. It's a great honor as a former teacher of the year myself. It's just great to see that representation throughout our parish. And so here on your screen, we got our new teachers of the year for 24-25. Miss Jenna Potmeyer from Mansfield Elementary, Miss Latasha Freeman from North DeSoto Lower, Mr. Stanley Woodley from Mansfield Middle, Mrs. Samantha Wilson from North DeSoto Middle School, Miss Grace Lewis from Mansfield High School, Miss Anna Jackson from North DeSoto High, and then Miss Aubrey Scott from Logan Sport. So give a round of applause for our new teachers of the year. And then our selection for teachers of the year, we have Miss Nicole Bakalis from Logan Sport for our elementary, Miss Heather Holbert Fort from Mansfield Elementary, Miss Jessica Simmons from North DeSoto Lower, Miss Michelle Feaster from North DeSoto Upper Elementary, and Miss Tori LaFleur from Stanley. For our middle school, we have Alyssa Remedies from Logan Sport, Coach Michael Word from Mansfield Middle, Miss Carla McLean from North DeSoto Middle, Miss Amy Petrillo from Stanley, and then finally for high school we have Miss Bailey Coburn from Logan Sport, Miss Blanca Stewart from Mansfield High, Mrs. Christina White from North DeSoto High, and then Miss Madison Welburn from Stanley. And all of these teachers and new teachers will go on at a chance to compete for the parish level. Teacher and new teacher of the year, and then they will eventually represent at the state level. And then finally, we cannot go without recognizing those people that are behind the scenes in our schools every day, our incredible support staff as well. So we have some support staff members that got selected for this year. So here we have Ms. Robin Morgan from North DeSoto Lower for elementary, Ms. Shannon Garcia, Betty Carter from Mansfield Elementary. For the high school level, we have Jeannie Albritton from North DeSoto High, Miss Alfreda Rawls from Mansfield High, and then at middle school level, we have Miss Eunice Harris from North DeSoto Middle, Brenda Grant from Mansfield Middle, and then at the pre-K through 12 level, Mrs. Cody Ward from Logan Sport and Miss Jennifer Prudhomme from Stanley. So let's give our incredible support staff a round of applause. We'll have a more formal presentation celebrating all of our honorees at our December 5th board meeting. So we'll have that to look forward to. So that'll conclude great news tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, report of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting held on September 26, 2024. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, sir. Asking your approval of the minutes for September the 26th, 2024.
Second. Motion by Coach Morvan, second by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Please tell me. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, sir. We're gonna take the other items individual. Start with number 1, approving the resolution to authorize the superintendent to sign the form for rejection or underinsured insurance coverage for commercial automobiles. Got cast your votes.
Chair will entertain a motion.
So
Second. Motion by Mr. Ross, second by Mr. Dufour. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, number two, approve the resolution to authorize the state mineral boards to act on behalf of DeSoto Parish School in the advertising bid leasing process.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morvan, second by Ms. Mayweather. Any discussion?
No, it does include the few clauses.
Please cast your votes. Please tally your vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the third item, declare idle board owned property as supplement, authorizing the superintendent to initiate the RFQ process and to enter into contract with a licensed realtor for the sale and supplement property.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ross, second by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Item number 6, consider approval of bid for Mansfield High School athletic project. Mr. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we had a situation with the bidding process where the low bid was above budget. And we were able to work alongside our legal counsel and the architect, met with the low bidder and to discuss some cost efficiencies in the project. And after making some adjustments on our end and on the contractor's end to the scope of work, we were able to create a deductive change order that now falls within the original budget. So I'm asking you tonight that you approve the low bid of Ratliff Construction for $6,265,000 and the deductive change order of $722,726, which brings the total project cost to $5,542,274, which is below the original budget.
So move it. Second.
Second by Mr. Boyd. A motion by Mr. Boyd, second by Mr. Morris. Any discussion or question?
I would just like to make a comment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Boyd.
I must say this is, as the songwriter said, it's a long time coming, but a change will come. And this is a great day for Mansfield. You look around, there's a lot of projects going on. So I feel good about it. We have been working on this project for years, the softball project, the cover facility, which is a good project also. So I just want to thank the board, thank the superintendent for going back to the drawing board, because this is a great time for Mansfield.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. I will say, just to clarify, this is includes renovation to the softball, baseball field, to include artificial turf on those infields, along with refurbishing fences, dugouts, and some of the existing site there, as well as a covered practice facility for not only football, but any and all athletic and student activities that would need to be undercover. And so look forward to a press release in the coming days to get the word out on that. And thanks for the board's interest, effort, and support on this project.
Any more discussion? Please cast your votes. Tally votes when ready. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 7, Mr. Corley, board policy for approval. I will yield it to you.
This is the highlight of everybody's night, to hear me. So we have a series of policies for your approval tonight, and they are as follows. Policy ABCB, qualifications for school board members. Policy BBBC, school board member continuing education. Policy BCBA, notification of school board meetings. Policy DC, annual operating budget. Policy DCBA, general fund budget reserves. Policy DCBB, reserve policies and other funds. Policy DCDA, budget crisis procedures. Policy GBA, contracts and compensation. Policy GBRH, employees leave and absences. GBRHA, sick leave. GBRIF, bereavement leave. JDA, corporal punishment. JGC, student health services. JGCB, immunizations. JGCD, administration of medication. JGCFA, behavioral health services for students. Ask for your approval of the policies as printed in your packet.
So move
So
it.
move.
Second it.
Mr. Board, motion by Mr. Glenn, second by Ms. Thomas. Any discussion? Please just ask superintendent if you do.
Okay.
Please cast your vote.
Need a drink of water.
Please tally the votes when they're ready. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 8, school security and student safety. Mr. Corley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, members and members of our community and our school community. Just what I'm going to share with you tonight may not be tons of breaking news to many of you, but for some it might be. I think it's more about reassuring our public the steps that are being taken on behalf of our students and our staff. And I appreciate this board for your commitment to never say no when we put before you some measure or resource that is needed to ensure the safety of our families and our community. You always step up and do that. There's a few folks that I want to recognize outside of this board that put a ton of work into ensuring this student safety and school security. Josh Dahlem, Heath Parker, Clint Fuller, Peyton Dufour, and principals, staff, administration everywhere, our teachers. It takes a collective effort, but these gentlemen that I just mentioned to you spend many hours meeting with me, meeting with our sheriff. The sheriff is he may run in here late, but I know he had some other previous engagements that he was required to be at tonight. But with us is Mark Pierce. Mark is the communications guru. I'm sure the title, is that good? For the sheriff's department. But Mark and Peyton have become fast friends and share a ton of information. So it's a collective effort of a lot of folks to ensure the safety and security of our students and our population. So there's 8 different factors I'm going to talk about tonight and try to go through these quickly but very comprehensively at the same time. I will tell you that you're going to see upcoming in the next few weeks a series of videos that both Mark and Peyton have worked on, the sheriff and myself, that we've highlighted a ton of what you're going to see tonight, that also our public will see in a series of, I guess a series is the way to put it, a series of short videos over the course of a couple weeks. Remind me, guys, School Safety Week, October 21st, the week of October 21st is National School Safety Week, and that'll be the week that we roll out a ton of this. So you're getting this firsthand tonight as well as the public. So you see these factors that we're going to roll through, but it's a multi-dimensional approach to protecting our greatest resource, which is our children. Emergency preparedness and response. And we could talk a lot about this, but here's 4 basic factors that we ensure our students and staff are taken care of. So a crisis management plan. We have a district crisis management plan, but every school has their own, which every school has their own set of differences and unique situations. Mr. Dahlem and Mr. Fuller's shop spent a lot of time going through the crisis management plan. I think Josh kind of rebirthed that this year, rebranded it, and did a ton of work on that. So every school, every campus has a plan. Our emergency drills seem like we do some sort of drill every week, and principals in here would echo that. I'm not sure they'd say amen, maybe oh me, but nevertheless, we're conducting multiple levels of drills each month on every campus. Our incident command system, or ICS, for streamlined coordination. I know I spent some time with Mr. Dahlem, as well as every member that you could think of our EMS partners a few weeks ago over at the Callista Calhoun Center in a tabletop activity or exercise where they basically go through a mock scenario of a tragedy or an incident and have to play that out amongst all agencies in a community. And really, it was eye-opening to me to understand the magnitude of just one small but serious event and how many folks have to respond and the coordination that's required there. Something very new to us, and Peyton is working on this, continues to work on this, but our crisis communication plan to basically ensure accurate and timely information is released, and the appropriate folks are notified at the appropriate time with the appropriate message. Here's what we'll commit to you. One, we're not going to beat the story to Facebook. Can't do it. There's professional Facebook moms out there. We can't beat them to the story, but what we can do is get the accurate information to our people, to our parents and our families, and get it right. And we'll commit that to you. But thanks to Mr. Dufour and his collaboration with Mr. Pierce has grown this crisis communication plan to ensure that we're consistent. Every time there's an incident, we will communicate in a certain method, in a certain rhythm that parents begin to become familiar with, and they know why we haven't mentioned something in the first 3 minutes, or why we haven't beat the story, to Facebook, so to speak. So I'm excited about that work. Our medical response and first aid, a ton of work. This is not an all-inclusive list. As I mentioned, these are most of the highlights, but we have AEDs, as you know. We've had those for several years. That was actually one of the first things I think we did after I came here in the whole list of things. So that's going on 7 years now. But our automated external defibrillators, we've seen those work. And probably, I guess, Mr. Carter, it's been about 5 years ago where that device and 2 trained or multiple trained paramedics and staff members and a SRO saved a child's life on a football field. A harrowing and eerie sound to be at a football stadium, dead silence, and you hear that automated external defibrillator calling out commands. It's a comforting sound, but it's one I hope I never have to hear again in action. But obviously, we saw the benefit of that. We have not just one at every site, which is what we had then. Now we have multiple devices at every site to include this building, all of our district offices, all of our schools. But we also have mobile units now that travel with our teams and or any other student activity that wishes to, that can travel and take those devices. But we mandate that go with, for instance, our football teams tomorrow night that are traveling. They'll have that device. And as a coach, as a former coach, and there's a couple of us that could attest to this, maybe, that I was probably needing one on many occasions, or close to needing one, maybe on the sideline. So hopefully we never need that with any of our coaches. But again, we'll first aid CPR bleed control kits. That's a new feature, something that we've added. That was after conversations with our emergency management folks asking about did we have the ability in the event of a mass casualty shooting or any type of tragedy, do we have the ability to act quickly and stop bleeding from multiple students in a situation? We did not at that time, and this is something that we have now. Our medical emergency response teams, every school has some trained folks above and beyond just a a regular teacher who has also training and requirement. There is a crisis response team and or a medical emergency response team. There's a nurse or someone else who has some type of training. Our student medical action plans, any student with any specific health condition or brittle situations all have a medical emergency or medical action plan with assigned folks that if a child has an event, a situation that puts them in need, that we have a plan for action there. Our school nurse and medical personnel is staffed above the national standard. That's something where actually Mr. Fuller, appreciate him and his being proactive and intentional. He just had a professional consultant that came in and did a complete review of our medical staff, looking at the numbers of students that they serve, the specific needs, and to make sure that we're operating within the standards that's set by national organizations of school nursing and those kind of things. So kudos to him, and I appreciate the efforts of our nurses. We actually stock epinephrine for allergic emergencies and Narcan. Unfortunately, with fentanyl and the crisis that the opioid situation in this country has, that's available now over the counter. But it's one of the, if not, I'm sure it's the most effective measure to deter an overdose of fentanyl or opioids. We now have that stocked in our schools. While it is an over-the-counter item, it is not just laying on the counter right at our schools. It is controlled, but we are now have those. Talk about physical safety measures. Obviously, for you guys, you all know that we have secure entrances with locked doors, buzzer systems, or controlled access situations, along with video surveillance on every campus. At one point in time, I could watch every camera in our system with about 6 clicks with different situations. Now it takes me about 15 clicks. That's how many cameras we've added. And there are very few situations where we ever deny a request. And I'll say this, I shouldn't say this because the principals are behind me and they're going to ask for more cameras. But in almost every case where a camera is needed, we agree and approve a camera request. We may move a camera or ask them to switch angles or something of that nature. But there's very few places on our campus, both in and out, that we don't have cameras. With the exception of classrooms at this point, although we do have some schools where classroom cameras are installed, that is, a next step in something that we have been researching as a potential improvement down the road somewhere. Visitor management system, if you've been on campus lately and you didn't have your ID badge, then you got the yellow sticker. And so we're pleased about that. I actually got a little bit of feedback last year about that from a family that came or a person that came whose family I'm aware of in another district, and said that was the first thing that happened to them, and they've never been in a school that actually required them to do that. And they appreciated the time it took to do that, to make sure that they were legit when going to visit their child. Our DPSO has the ability and does monitor our cameras. The 911 center has direct access into our camera system. If there are any type of events, whether that's medical emergency or some type of crisis, they can immediately patch in and see the situation and direct law enforcement accordingly without having to get a third party to relay that information. I mentioned the closed caption TV cameras installed throughout all our schools. Our metal detection systems, as you know, that's been a new addition, the open gate system. You've seen that if you've been to a ball game or any type of event at a middle school or high school. We added the 3M ballistic safety film on all our entry doors and windows, and those that we haven't gotten to yet, there's a plan for that. The schools that are receiving some upgrades like Stanley and Logansport, I think we're waiting until those new schools or new projects are finished before we actually put those in place. Knox box emergency key boxes, you might have seen these. We actually have them on this building, And then on every school building, that's basically an emergency key box that's embedded into the brick. It's also viewed by camera, just in case someone wanted to try it. But our emergency personnel all have a key to that Knox box, so that you don't have a situation where if that's after hours or during the time where things are locked down, if emergency personnel come to the building, they don't have to break out every window you got or door to try to get in. It's simply somewhere near the entryway. Our behavioral and mental health support's very critical. You can't put all your efforts on one end, on the hardened areas or the protection end, if you don't work on the front end to try to address behaviors sometimes that create crisis. And I feel like we're headed in a great direction. If you'll recall, our strategic priority number one is to develop a comprehensive system of learning supports and or a comprehensive system of care for our children. And that is focused on the behavioral and mental health supports. So routine safety audits for identifying vulnerabilities across our campuses is something that we've been doing here for longer than I've been here, and something that is important for us to continue to do. But our mental health resources continue to grow, including our counselors, our external partnership with the Volunteers of America. We have increased our access or increased our coverage, if you will, by the number of counselors that we have deployed across the district. And that is something that we hope to increase over time. Threat assessment teams that evaluate and intervene in potential threat situations. If a student is experiencing some ideology of harming themselves or others, they're immediately addressed through by one of our members of the threat assessment team, or a crisis response situation where they're evaluated accordingly. If we feel like, or our staff feel like they're a danger to themselves or others, then they're going to be referred to medical professionals in order to determine further what needs to happen. Anonymous reporting system, this is really like a communication app, but the Sheriff's app actually, it has a feature, an Our Schools tab. If you all have that app, it has an Our Schools tab that gives any member of the public, anyone with access to that app, the ability to send in an anonymous tip based upon their school. So if it's something that's dealing with a kid in the community, they want to give a tip to the school that says, hey, such and such is happening, or even they're hearing something that's happening at a school, they can use that app to hit that communication. That tip then goes to the SRO on that campus and further to administration and to our law enforcement officers. So it's not very widely known, not used at all, but something that we want to make sure that our community, our families are aware of. We have student wellness teams on each campus, and those teams meet very frequently to determine needs of students based upon a variety of factors, whether that's behavior, grades, attendance, discipline, accordingly. But they're devoted to ensuring that we're not letting students fall through the cracks, and that we're keeping our arms around our kids who need us the most. The implementation of Satchel Pulse platform, that is our one-stop shop, if you will, to address behavioral needs. So a kid can go on there, answer a questionnaire or survey, if you will, and based upon their answers or their responses can be assigned to certain lessons that address behaviors that are what we would deem deficient in our areas of need. We can also, as a school, assign kids that are experiencing certain behaviors or having discipline issues across the board. We can assign them certain lessons that work toward improving their decision-making in a variety of areas. The trauma-informed care training for staff is something that's vital, and it really supports our kids with that have significant issues. And I know a lot of our teachers, a lot of administrators have received trauma-informed care training, and it's benefited them in many ways, just how to diffuse situations or handle situations that sometimes maybe in the past we wouldn't take the extra time to address. We just remove the kid and be done with it. But how you do that, how you intervene in times of crisis or trauma matter greatly. Our communication systems, as I mentioned, as you know, we have a mass communication system or mass notification through text, email, phone call, our J-Campus, J-Call, and the like. But we also use ThrillShare, which is our mobile app system that we can send out mobile notifications. And lastly on that, the Rave Panic Button app is a I don't have my phone, but it's on my phone and every other administrator in here and should be on all of our employees' phones. But the Rave Panic Button gives that employee the ability to alert on several situations where that could be a shooter or a fire or any type of, it could be a behavioral discipline issue, a fight or whatever. It gives them the ability to alert on that, and it immediately notifies administration, SRO, law enforcement. It is basically a 911 call button in your pocket, and something that is very important. Two-way radios for our staff, security personnel, that's nothing new. We have made a purchase, and they're not in just yet, but the state-of-the-art new radios that Sheriff's Department is going to allows for, and it will allow for one of those radios on every campus for our administrators to talk directly to law enforcement and to be on the emergency channel and communicate freely no matter where they're at. Right now, there's some issues with communication from certain areas to other areas. Now, our folks can communicate freely within the building and within the vicinity of the building, but when you're talking about in multiple areas of the parish or across multiple campuses, such as North DeSoto or even at Mansfield, the current radios with old outdated repeaters don't allow for that. So we're excited about moving forward with the new radios and kind of coming into the 21st century there. I mentioned the development of a crisis, the comprehensive crisis communication plan, and that is something we're excited about launching. Kind of wrapping up here, our training and professional development. Our staff are routinely trained, and sometimes more than routinely. And I'm not going to take show of hands here who's leading and getting all their training done, but there's a few of them that are all done. The rest of us still have a little work to do, but not only just in the safety and security training, but there are about, I think, 9 hours close to it, all the online training that's done, that's necessary. But you see those, the CPR first aid, the AED training, stop the bleed training, Narcan training, along with many, many others. Our cybersecurity and online safety, I don't have to take you back too far to remind you of where we were at about 5 years ago and the threats that came around. They're still out there. And all these hackers and folks that are trying to hold public entities hostage because of their lack of cybersecurity measures. And we have a partner now with a company called Lockstep to ensure that our firewall is functional, up to speed, protected, and we're staying abreast of the latest and greatest and innovative programs. Kudos to Ms. Lafitte and Jed, the technicians, and their day-to-day work on the ground to make sure that our folks are safe. But having this extra layer and level of protection is important. We also use a couple different tools. One is Gaggle, and that is basically it monitors our email traffic. And there are a few magic words that if they're used within our email, then there are a couple folks, Mr. Dahlem, Mr. Fuller, are two of those, but and Mr. Gardner, I believe, are gonna get a notification that email's been blocked. And it's been notified that they've said it's like you can't say fire in a theater or bomb in an airport. You can't say, there's a dozen or so words you better not say in our email system. And I'm not gonna share those publicly, but you can imagine what a few of those might be. Catch me afterward, and I'll give you the list of no-fly zone.
Text us the word.
Can I text it? I'll email it to you. How about that? So Go Guardian is another monitoring and it blocks appropriate content. But we have Go Guardian in our system and on all our devices. Our parents can actually take care of that. So when they're not, or they can actually activate that at home as well. Am I correct on that, Mr. Dahlem? I thought I was. So when parents say, I don't want to bring in this device home because he's looking at whatever and it's not, I don't appreciate that or whatever. Well, they have the ability, they can lock that down. We're going to lock it down on our campus. He's not going to be able to look at it there, so he shouldn't be able to look at it at home, right? So that's a feature, and it's paid for by the DeSoto Parish school system. And so once again, we appreciate the work that's done there. Transportation safety, obviously we've been rolling with air-conditioned buses for some years now. And when I see other school districts struggling with this or getting their business put out there because they don't have air-conditioned buses, I thank the good Lord and the DeSoto Parish school system that we've taken care of that. But we have cameras throughout. Many times, most of all of our buses have multiple cameras inside. We have daily safety inspections required by our bus operators, and they go through some significant routine professional development. I'll put our transportation department up against any in the state. So we appreciate Mr. Hall and the ladies over there, as well as all of our operators, our mechanics. Their department is second to none. So this collaboration between what I call two organizations committed to excellence is key, critical. I found this quote by Mandela. It said, "Safety and security don't just happen. They're a result of collective consensus and public investment." And I think that's obvious here. We have collective consensus. We understand the importance. We believe it's a priority, but we have public investment. And that starts with 11 members of this board, and I appreciate you. There are 4 things that I think we also would add. We have quarterly school security and student safety, our leadership team meetings upstairs. We call it lunch and learn, and I'll buy the pizza. Well, actually, Miss Vicki buys the pizza. And I invite members of our emergency management family and partners to come, and we spend an hour doing nothing but going over scenarios, talking about the latest trends, asking questions and answering questions based upon, or creating work for the next month to say, okay, what do we need to do better? Our DeSoto Parish schools, resource officers and their extended family provide those escorts to and from our out-of-parish student activities, athletic events. There's no greater peace of mind than being somewhere on the road, an hour, 2 hours, wherever away, seeing one of our buses rolling at midnight and knowing that there's an armed unit or a uniform unit with them. Routine drug and weapons searches there. Unfortunately, that's something that we don't promote or we don't publicize, but it's happening, been happening for years. And those are things that we use as a deterrent, but also a measure that shows our community, our kids, that we're serious about maintaining a safe and drug-free environment. We also have increased presence at our events, our student activities, athletic events. We believe that, unfortunately, the climate and culture in this world right now is one where we have to do as much as we can and do one more thing, go about 2 steps beyond. And that's what we're committed to do. And so I'll take any questions that you have. I know what I've said tonight might not be earth-shattering or brand new for this board. It may not be for the folks in this room, but these are measures that will, in turn, as I mentioned, be sharing through a series of videos and some graphics and social media posts that we remind and or inform our public of the steps that are being taken on behalf of their children.
Mr. Corder,
Yes.
I would just like to personally thank all of our staff and our great sheriff's department for loving and protecting our greatest assets, which is our students. Y'all do, both teams, I mean, it takes a team, do a wonderful job. And another kudos, I don't know if everybody here has the sheriff's department app, but Mark Pierce, when it's storming, he never sleeps.
Yeah.
He is more up to date than any meteorologist around here.
Maybe now's a good time to introduce his wife, Dixie. That's
But you should tune in. We have the best staff in this parish. Our sheriff's department is I think, the best in the country. We have a lot to be thankful for here.
The interaction between the administration and the sheriff's department is second. And we really, really have a lot to be thankful
Well, Mr. Pierce, did I miss anything? Would you like to add anything? Okay, come on. Yes, sir.
Are you getting old? Sit there for too long.
I have a very unique job. I tell everybody I have the fun job with the ability to run Facebook and the app. But I believe that most of you on this board would agree with me. Every night when I go to bed, I thank God that I live in DeSoto Parish. And there's a lot to that statement. The fact that our agencies so willingly work together on projects such as this. I hunt in West Texas. Every year we go out there, and on our way back, we drop our deer off in Uvalde. And seeing what took place in Uvalde really affected our family because we've kind of grown to know a few of the people out there. We definitely know the folks at the Uvalde meat market well. I wanted to share something with y'all because I'm not a responder. I tell everybody I have the safe and fun job. The scariest day that I've had at my office, I work there in the front office. The scariest day that I've had at that office came about 2 years ago, I believe it was. And I'm sitting, and my office has got windows, or my office where I was had windows all the way around so you could just see the inside. And I don't know about you guys, but if you were sitting here during this board meeting tonight, and all of a sudden everyone in this crowd took off running, I want you to think about what would go through your mind. Because one day at the office, everyone that I knew and worked with took off running past my office. And your heart goes in your throat when that happens, because I had no idea what was going on at the time. Now, I'll tell you what happened. A call came through that we later found out to be a hoax phone call to the Mansfield Police Department. And when that went across the radio, from my perspective, I got to see those coworkers that I know all too well go into action. And they arrived at Mansfield High School, and there was never a threat, but that they did not know that. And it was what we called the best training that you could get, because everyone that was responding, as a matter of fact, our doors lock with a magnet, and it had recently, you're supposed to walk up to it and there's a sensor and it unlocks. It had recently stopped working, so you had to press a button to get out. The sheriff was the first one out the door, and he almost broke his nose on the door trying to get out the door because he didn't press the button, and we made fun of him. I was proud of my coworkers that day, and I think about all of the bad news that we heard come out of Uvalde, Texas, and the mistakes that were made. And I got to look at my office and our parish as a whole, and I was proud that day. My wife is a school teacher. She's been a school teacher for 24 years now. I've had students in DeSoto Parish schools. I worry, just like all of you, about my wife at the school, my kids at the schools. And so this is working with Peyton, Mr. Corley, and the conference calls, and doing these videos and highlighting these things is honestly been a privilege. I think we do a great job, and we can always do a better job at letting the public know those things that are in place to protect our kids. And so hopefully that'll be what we accomplish during School Safety Week with these videos. And I just want to say I thank all of y'all for your support, your prayers, and thank Mr. Corley for heading this up. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
So while it is important and it is imperative that we both work together, it's not seen as work. It's a joy, as I mentioned, to collaborate on things. But we know that as much as we can do, we're going to do, and we're going to always try to do better. The key piece of this puzzle is our community and our families. What happens outside the four walls of our campuses and how our kids are cared for, nurtured, supported, challenged, the whole 9 yards, impacts what occurs in our facilities. And so it's a team effort, and one that we, through School Safety Week, will continue to place the challenge to our families about doing everything they can to ensure our children are safe. So, thank you.
I have a question. Yes. I just don't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
This year we implemented the cell phone.
Yes.
How's that going?
Well, I could bring some principles to the podium, but I'll just say I've not, as far as complaints go, or situations where we've had any kind of public outcry. Our kids have been very good to adapt to the policy. One instance where I'll say I knew we were doing something right. We had a hoax or a video that surfaced several weeks ago of a threat on some of our campuses, specifically on the north end. It took about half a day from sheriff's office and administration and our folks to work through that and to realize that it was not a credible threat, and our children and our schools were safe. When about 4 o'clock, I get a call saying that there's been another threat, and they followed the same protocol. And I thought, gee whiz, here we go again. We just spent half of the day working on this. Come to find out, and the sheriff's office worked through this, come to find out, because our kids didn't have access to their cell phone, when they got home that day and started looking and sharing, it was the same threat. It was just, it took that long for some of our kids to get the message because they didn't have access to their phone. So to your point, that's kind of a school security, safety, and a cell phone story all in one. But I think our kids adapt. They'll do as much as we allow them to do, and they'll do exactly what we expect them to do on either end. But I think that's going well.
Okay, the last item. Corey, do you have any comments?
Well, I made enough tonight, but I'll say a couple things. Get to my notes here. I know Mr. Glenn mentioned the passing of Coach Marvin Cooper Jr. We ask that you keep his family in your prayers, the Mansfield football team, and the entire Wolverine family. Coach Cooper's body will lie in state tomorrow at the funeral home here in Mansfield, Jenkins, at from 2 to 6 p.m. I know there's a balloon release planned for tomorrow night at halftime, I believe, of the game. And Saturday, his funeral will be held at the Mansfield High School Gymnasium at 12 noon. And we thank you for your continued prayers and support. As Mr. Glenn mentioned, Miss Ashworth and her family, Mr. Parker, as he undergoes treatment and continues his battle. So we thank you to all of you who've offered prayers, your support during a pretty difficult time. So on a good note, I don't have to tell anybody, I think, left in here, but with your permission, board, we'll let those folks take off next week for fall break. It's been previously determined. And I think if you said no, they're probably going to take off anyway. So I thank everyone for your attendance and participation tonight.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So much.
So moved.
Will do. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey.